Hi, I'm Natalie Chassé, and we are going to be making a very lovely, wintry, but also alternatively summery salad today, depending on what fruit you decide to use. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. But essentially, today is all about either radicchio, of which I have some very manky old pieces. We'll talk about that more when we get to peeling them. I also have red chicory, so I'm going to be using a mixture of the two, but we're going to have this gorgeous plate of red, leaves with texture and body. We're gonna do some charred pears, some crunchy honey roasted hazelnuts, some burrata for something really nice and soft and creamy. What else we got going? We're gonna make a really gorgeous balsamic vinaigrette, okay? So I favor shaking a vinaigrette in a jar because you can really, really emulsify it. Again, we'll talk more about that when we get there, but we're going to be doing a balsamic and Dijon and honey vinaigrette as well, and we'll finish everything off with a little bit of Parmesan, a little bit of lemon zest. It's just a really easy but impressive salad. So if you're having guests over for dinner and you're making something really simple for mains, whether it's roast chicken or fish, this is a really nice accompaniment essentially. And it does, as a dish and as a salad, really hit all of the spots because we've got this lovely combination of, sweet, crunchy nuts, which obviously bring in that gorgeous texture, creamy burrata, a very bitey vinaigrette. The pears we're going to char so that they're just still very, ripe, but just softened and charred that little bit. So you can really kind of bring them into the salad in a nice, warm, kind of not too raw, fruity way. If you were to do this salad in winter, I would say, if you are doing it in winter as it is now, well, it depends when and where you're watching this video, but it is currently winter in London or becoming so, I would definitely cook them. Okay, we're going to char them in a frying pan. However, if you want to make the salad in the summertime, keep them fresh, just nice, thin, fresh slices of the pear. I've also done a very similar salad with peaches, and it's delicious, okay? Anyway, first things first, ovens should be on 200, 220, so that we can get our nuts nice and golden and roasted before we really do anything else. So that is step number one. All we need to do is lay your hazelnuts out into a little tray. I've got a pretty large handful there. Might not get through all of them, but we'll see. And then I'm just going to go in with some honey, a nice generous drizzle. And then we're going to get these in the oven, and they are going to get golden and caramelize. And then when we bring them out, we're going to immediately transfer them to a cool plate so that they get nice and hard so that we can crush them up. But all it is for now, hazelnuts, honey, oven tray, oven-proof tray, whatever you're putting them in, and let's pop them in the oven. Okay, let's get rid of that. Keep an eye on them. Hazelnuts, I find, actually can roast for longer than the average nut without burning, okay? But still, set a timer, 6, 7, 8 minutes. Keep an eye on them. I'll keep checking in on them. I'll remind you to do the same, hopefully. But otherwise, let's get them in there for now. Okay, great. So the next thing we're going to do, before we start talking about all of this sad radicchio in front of me, which we will get to, we're going to char some pears in a frying pan. So essentially, we just want to snip that little stalk off and then cut through your pear lengthways. Now, we don't necessarily want like super chunky pieces of pear, right? So I would cut that in half. So we've quartered that, and I would cut that in half again as well. It really depends on the size of the pear and your affinity to fruit in salad. I love this dish, don't get me wrong, but I don't normally love fruit in salad. So if I was having this fresh, I would really want to make sure that the pear is super, super finely sliced. We're obviously cooking it, so, well, we're going to char them essentially, but I still don't want them to have to be these massive pieces of pear, okay? Because the rest of the leaves are delicate and everything's delicate. So we're going to get some nice color on them in the frying pan. We're going to salt them, some olive oil. I'm going to use definitely one more, maybe two. Let's see, let's use that one. And then we'll talk seasoning. We'll season them when they are already in the frying pan. But this one's just a little greener, which I actually really like. We'll get a little bit of color variation there. So they're relatively chunky-ish pieces, but nothing too chunky. Okay, so slice those. I'm using my trusty little serrated knife, which I love. I'm sure 2 will be enough for the amount of leaves that I have, but just for good measure, let's take half of a third. Slice that off. Slice it in half. We'll leave half of it. These are conference pears, and they are really, really ripe. Personally, hate a mushy pear. We are going to naturally be softening them a little bit in the frying pan, right? So they will get a little bit softer. So you want to start off with a pear that is already quite firm, I think is important. So to bring, obviously we've got lots of sweetness running through the dish. The pear's naturally sweet. Those hazelnuts are going to be nice and sweet. We're going to have a little bit of very gentle lavender honey running through the dressing. So I'm okay to make the pears kind of savory. So I'm going to get some olive oil into my frying pan. You can totally do these on a char grill as well, by the way, like a griddle. That would actually be really nice. Don't know why I'm not doing that, but you can. I'll make sure that that is in the notes. Okay, so we don't want to cook these low and slow. We want to cook them hard and fast. Okay, so you want to get your frying pan onto a good medium heat. Really, let's let it get hot first before we put anything on there, before we think about putting the pears on. So what we're going to do, we're going to char the pears, then transfer them to a cool plate, which I will grab. Then we're going to work on our lettuces, which you're going to need a big mixing bowl for. Then we're going to make a lovely dressing, and then we're going to tie everything together. And the reason I just want to have a plate handy for the pears is that I don't want them to sit in this hot frying pan when it's off, continuing to cook and to get mushy. So let's move some of these things aside, all of our dressing ingredients, and wait for that to get hot, okay? It pays off. So if you are, I essentially just want those pears to caramelize almost, it won't happen immediately, but we want them to get good color as soon as they get thrown onto that frying pan. So let your olive oil get hot, okay? We haven't used a huge amount of olive oil here, but just enough so that they don't stick, so that they don't release too much sugar and get all stuck to your pan and break apart. But that's feeling nice and hot so far. Let's see what one sounds like. Sizzle. If there's a sizzle, your pan is hot enough. So we're not sauteing these or stir frying these. Actually going to grab some tongs when we want to turn them over, but essentially just getting some good old color on them. These would work really well on a griddle. If you had a taste of your pear and it's not very sweet, I also give you permission to scatter a little bit of sugar over these, drizzle a little bit of honey over these. All right, lovely. So those are just going to get some nice color. I think I mentioned it when we started, but I've done the salad with charred peaches as well. You could do nectarines, you could do peaches in summer. Any stone fruits would be really nice as well during summertime. So I'm using the pear because it's a great nod to winter, obviously, but just let them sizzle there, okay? And then we will turn them shortly. So what we can do now, we can refer to our leaves, okay? The reason I want you to have a nice big mixing bowl is so that your leaves can go in here and you can actually dress the leaves in this gorgeous balsamic vinaigrette that we're gonna make before they go on the plate. I hate seeing a salad that is undressed, goes onto a plate, and that you just kind of go like that with it. It's really nice to make sure that you can massage that delicious dressing that you've gone to the effort to make onto all of your leaves in a bowl and then go from bowl to plate. It's always, I think, the best way to do it. So grab a bowl, and then with your, so the reason I've got chicory as well, I usually do the salad with radicchio, okay? However, it was difficult to find. And even though I did have some radicchio in the fridge, you can see I've got some pretty sad looking pieces, okay? So I wanted to see if I could make some of them work, because the deeper you go into your radicchio, it's like, obviously like it's a lettuce, right? So it unravels and unravels and you get more and more pieces. There are some nice tender pieces that I can still use. So I'll throw those in, but those are not really usable. They're too soft. This guy's decent. So chicory is a great alternative to radicchio if you cannot find radicchio, okay? Chicory seems to be more readily available. So I'm going to be doing a mix of both chicory and radicchio. Those first few pieces of an old radicchio are never usually very usable. So unfortunately, I will discard those. They are great, however, tossed through a pasta. You can absolutely do that. So like they don't need to go to waste. You can still use them, but just in a context where you'll be softening them a little bit. So I just love this leaf. It's gorgeous, good color, good vibes of a leaf. Okay, I'm gonna look at these pears, just give them a little turn. Ooh, look at that color. All right, that is gorgeous caramelization on these pears. Super happy with the way those are looking. And that's really the color that you want to get on them, okay? That nice golden Maillard effect. All right, so I'm going to turn those. I don't want them to get too dark. And in fact, I'm so happy with that color, I don't necessarily need them to cook anymore. So I'm going to take my heat off completely. Not all pieces are that charred, but most of them are. And I'm going to transfer them to my cool plate. If there are any that require a little more cooking, a little more love, you can give them that. But as long as you've got a nice golden char on them, we are in such a good place. Those cooked fast. The natural sugars in the fruit will really help with caramelization. So I definitely did not need to add any extra sugar or honey to mine, but if you needed to add to yours to achieve that, it's absolutely fine. Okay. Oof. Lovely. And the reason I'm taking them off now is purely because if one side looks good, okay, we'll plate in a way so that that caramelized side is exposed. And it just means you haven't overcooked them, and then they're not going to be mushy, right? So it really does pay to cook them. Oh, look how good that looks. Hard and fast, as I said. Okay. So that was just olive oil, pear, frying pan, the right amount of heat, the right amount of time. If yours are taking a little bit longer to achieve that color, please do not feel pressure to take yours off just because I'm taking mine off. But there you have some really lovely charred pears. And I'm just going to do a little sprinkle of salt on them. You could do this in the frying pan as well, okay? There's no harm there. But it's definitely very much a savory dish, okay? So I'm going to come back to the leaves in 1 second. This is your chance to look at your hazelnuts and see how they're doing. Mine definitely still need more time, okay? So I'm going to keep pushing mine. And let's get back to these leaves. So normally when you actually have a decent head of radicchio, not like a 1 week old piece like I'm dealing with. It's not 1 week old. What's today? Today is Monday. These were delivered on Wednesday last week. So yeah, not too far off a week, but I didn't want to not use them. So just break them apart. Let me see if I can get a few more pieces. But I love that red chicory, similar colors, different shape. Okay, so actually when we cut into those, you'll see still works really nicely together. And look, I'm still getting a really good amount of radicchio out of these old pieces. So I'm actually super happy that I brought them with. Okay. Now, what more can we get from this guy? That is a good piece. Love it. Okay, I'm going to move on to the chicory now so that we have a nice variety. And then we're going to make our gorgeous dressing. We're going to hopefully get those hazelnuts out of the oven nice and toasted in time, because we really want them to get dark golden brown, and then we want them to cool, okay? And then we need to crush them up. So I often do the nuts like in advance. If I'm having people over, it's always just easy to have those kind of ready to go. Okay, that one's a little soft, but that is good. Great. Okay, so radicchio. In terms of your chicory, you just want to cut that end off, and then they just fall apart. If you haven't cooked with these before, if you haven't eaten much chicory or Treviso, it is also called, these are also lovely vessels for dips. So if you have people over and you've got a nice crudité board and you've got dips, there's a few ways you can do them. They can be like a nice alternative to a cracker, or you can actually like put an anchovy here or make a really nice filling, and they're just like the perfect little boat vessel to eat something, you know, delicious that you've prepared, like, you know, a dip, a mousse, something savory, something delish. And then we're gonna get everything into this bowl. You might need to cut more of the ends off as you get further down the chicory, just like I need to do right now. It gets shorter and shorter and shorter. These nice little spears, but they've got beautiful flavor and great color, and I love the shape. You can really play around with them on your plate so that they kind of stand up beautifully. I am going to do a couple more. Take a nice fresh one. Okay. I just love how they fall apart so easily. So that when we massage our wonderful salad dressing, we just go like this. So you can see the benefit of mixing your leaves in a bowl. I do this with every salad I make. Always want to dress it in something else first. And I'm gonna do one more, I think. Because I've got a nice big flat platter to decorate all of this on. Okay. I do often find, depending on what else I'm serving, but at dinner parties, no matter how good a salad is, it doesn't always get finished. I feel like people always head to the mains first. But what I love about this salad is that it is so attractive, so delicious. This will not be left. There will be no leftovers of a salad like this. I promise you that. Okay, maybe just a touch more. A few more leaves. Okay. Check in on your hazelnuts again if you like. If you can smell them, they're probably ready. Okay, and then we're gonna make a lovely dressing, which is very much a case of just tasting, shaking, tasting again, seeing what else it needs. Okay, bowl of leaves is ready to go for our dressing whenever we're ready for it. So when it comes to dressings, I think the best and only way is to really just taste it. Roughly speaking, it should be 1 part vinegar to 2 parts oil, and then you've got your additions like mustard, honey, maybe it's lemon, salt, pepper, whatever it might be. This dressing is super simple. It is olive oil, and I'm just gonna eyeball the amount I need. Okay, olive oil, balsamic vinegar. I went through a phase where I went off balsamic vinegar, but I'm very much back on it, and I'm really enjoyed in the context of this dish. Just get a little more in there. You can play around, right? If you have a shake and you're like, it's not quite right, we keep going. Okay, we keep going until you are happy with the flavor. I can tell I'm actually gonna need a little bit more of both of these for the amount of leaves that I've got. So I'm just gonna do another little drizzle. Okay, so olive oil, balsamic vinegar, salt, generous, always needs salt, okay? A nice big dollop of Dijon mustard. That's also gonna add to the acidity that the vinegar has. And then I've got this nice lavender honey. I'm going to use a knife to get some of it out. It's really gentle, so it's not going to be too sweet. And about a teaspoon of that. Okay. And now if you were to try and mix this with a fork, sure, it would come together, but it would take longer and it wouldn't fully emulsify, right? But watch the magic of just shaking it in a jar. Like a bartender. You get this nice, thick, gorgeous dressing that comes together. Okay, it's emulsified, it ain't gonna separate. You can keep it in the jar. So let's open it up and see what we got. That is so close to being almost perfect. It needs a little bit of work, just a bit, but I just want to check on the hazelnuts quickly, which look fantastic. So the hazelnuts I'm quickly going to take out, and I just want them to cool. So we're going to come back to the dressing, okay? If your hazelnuts are still getting golden, leave them where they are. Okay. But those look fantastic. And what I'm going to do now is actually transfer them into a cool bowl so that they cool down and so that we can crush them when we are ready. Look at that. Wow, that honey has just made them like gorgeous and golden. Okay, back to the dressing. What you want to get out of this dressing is thickness. It shouldn't be too runny, okay? So if it's really runny, that probably means you've added too much vinegar and maybe not enough oil or not enough Dijon mustard. You want the sweetness, okay? It depends on the honey that you're using. Could be really, like the honey I'm using is very, very subtle, okay? So maybe that's why I feel like I need to add a little bit more honey to mine. But I am gonna add a little bit more honey, and I am gonna add a little more Dijon, and I'm gonna give it another shake, and then I think I'm gonna be really happy with that. But this is the thing. I've made dressings, I mean, so many times, and there's no point following a recipe. I really don't think there is. You just have to shake, taste, try, amend. Often depends how much you're making. You might have different, ingredients that you're using. Okay. Let's give that a shot. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. We got there. Okay. I'm going to clear some of this stuff. We are done with the dressing. We're done with the honey. We're done with the Dijon. I'm going to show you a lovely way to plate this whole dish. I would recommend doing it on something flat or something slightly, well, not slightly raised. What am I trying to say? Something flat or something like it can be a dish, but something shallow. Do not try plate this in a deep bowl, okay? Because you really want to show off all the different ingredients, and it's nice to kind of do that in like a nice flat way. So I'm going to create some space. I've got my burrata, I've got the nuts, which should be cooling. They're still very hot, so we'll do those last because we want to crush those up, which I like to do just with the back of a mug. But I'm going to create some space here. Obviously, we'll keep our dressing to hand. Okay. We've got a grater for a little bit of Parmesan and a little bit of lemon zest. We have our burrata, which is really nice and soft. And if you haven't drained your burrata yet, I have another bowl here. I may or may not use it, but burrata comes in liquid, right? So you just want to make sure that it's out of the liquid. We're not using any of that liquid. And of course, we have our gorgeous charred pears. So I'm going to actually put those here. Move a few things out of the way. Okay, so first things first. Let's start with our salads with our leaves and our dressing, okay? So don't use all the dressing in one go. We don't want this to be overly dressed, okay? And we want to drizzle a little bit on the top at the end. So the first sort of drizzle is to just get all of your leaves nicely coated. Okay, so get messy with it, okay? There is no point trying to keep your hands clean with this. You don't want them swimming in the dressing, but I can see perfectly that I've got some pieces that are nicely coated, some which are a little less coated, and then I'm gonna rinse my hands, but first I may as well transfer to a plate. I mean, this is just already stunning. I can't tell you the joy that I get from laying out a beautiful flat salad like this. And it just gets more and more fun as we decorate, okay? So I'm gonna get these leaves out. I mean, look at these colors. It's insane. Is anyone feeling these leaves like I'm feeling these leaves right now? Okay, we still have more dressing, so we will probably drizzle more over the top, but for now, the goal is to kind of like lay your leaves down flat. We're literally making a bed for the burrata, the pears, the hazelnuts, which are gonna be crushed up. Hopefully they're cool. Crushed up and kind of hidden in like the nooks and crannies of these beautiful leaves that we've got. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse my hands. We're done with the bowl and we will continue. Okay, hands are rinsed. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So, next step we can start to do are kind of carefully start to place our pear around, which I mean, look at these golden bits on that pear. It's just gorgeous. And reminder, if you want to save time and you can't be bothered to fry your pears for whatever reason, fresh will do, okay? And just be mindful of where you place them, right? We're layering, we're building up this beautiful salad here. Okay. And I like how it's got like height. It looks beautiful. I'm very excited about this as I am doing it. Okay, so pears are on. Pretty stuff, wow. Get another one there, behind a leaf maybe. Beautiful, okay. Burrata. It's rich, well, it's not rich, it's creamy. We always want to break it with our hands, okay? Never slice burrata, completely unnecessary. It's not done. And the way you want to plate this around is just getting little blobs here and there. You don't necessarily want to cover any of the pear, but maybe you want to get some burrata next to a little bit of pear, and you can kind of get your burrata in one of those cute little, chicory vessels. Oh my gosh. I just love the way this looks. Am I like losing my mind right now? But I just think this looks so good. Okay. So, burrata is on. You can use 1 to 2 bowls. Depends how many people you're serving. Depends what else you're serving for a dinner. Or maybe this is the whole lunch salad, which, by the way, would be gorgeous. It is a hefty salad. So you could definitely have this as a nice, generous main. If you just make more of it. Okay. I'm happy with that amount, I think. Does it look well balanced? I think so. I will rinse these hands one more time. And now, let's divert our attention back to these little hazelnuts. And the reason I want them to cool before we go and crush them is because it is just simply much easier to crush a cooled hazelnut than it is to crush one that is still warm. Now, they're amazing. They are so like sweet and crunchy. But I'm not gonna lie, they're not gonna be that easy to crush right now. So I'm gonna just try accelerate the cooling process. Now, unlike a walnut, right, which you can actually break up with your hands, it would be near to impossible to try crush up a hazelnut with your bare hands, okay? So we do need to use something with a heavy base. Obviously, you can use a pestle and a mortar. I don't have anything to hand. I'm gonna get creative and use the base of the honey jar, okay? So just, oh no, they're crushing well. It's nice to have some whole and some slightly crushed up. Okay, look at those. Beautiful, beautiful nuts, okay? Probably not gonna use all of these, to be honest. Okay. Okay, perfect. They're about 60% crushed, 40% whole. I'm happy with that, okay? Let's do a little bit of Parmesan. Not a huge amount, just a little. Just to get that nice bite in there. Make it somewhat rain. Okay, Parmesan, a little black pepper. God, that looks good. Wow. Okay, so Parmesan, black pepper. Oh, I got a sticker on my lemon. I do not want to get that in there, but some lemon zest. Not only does this bring nice color, okay, obviously that beautiful yellow against the purple is just gorgeous. Yellow and purple are complementary colors, if you didn't know, so it looks really pleasing to the eye, but that little bit of extra citrus just lifts it. Now, you have the option to drizzle a little more of your dressing over. Now, we've mostly covered all of the leaves, right? So it should be well dressed. But you want every bite to have the acidity of the dressing, okay? So just for good measure, do a little bit extra. Now, we want to do the hazelnuts at the end so that they stay nice and crunchy. Just scatter those on, and they will just naturally fall into the crevices of the leaves. And that's the most heavenly looking winter salad I think I've ever seen. I am so happy with this baby. Wow. Sticky, crunchy hazelnuts, creamy, delicious, soft burrata, a really punchy dressing, wintry charred golden pears. Oh God, that looks good. And that, my friends, is your charred pear and radicchio salad, which I think is the prettiest thing I may have ever made. So, I think if you were to serve this at a dinner party, your guests would be incredibly impressed. And yeah, you'll also be very surprised. Obviously, you just made it, as to how easy that was to pull together, right? Just championing each ingredient for what it is and layering on a flat plate. Can you imagine what that would look like in a bowl? The beauty in this dish is that it looks like an artwork. Everything is exposed. So, flat platter is the way to go. But that is it, guys. Beautiful. I hope you really enjoy that. Thank you for watching.